Hello and welcome to the myminimaths.co.uk video tutorials. And today we're going to be looking at calculating equivalent fractions, decimals and percentages using 100ths. So just like the previous video, we're going to be using the 100 square grid to help show what actually happens when we use the fractions, decimals and percentages to calculate the equivalent values. So instead of splitting the grid up into 10 parts like we did on video 1, on this one we're going to use all 100 parts. Okay, so just imagine that this is a pound coin, a square pound coin I suppose you could say, and each of these squares is worth a penny. So here we'd have 8p, 9p, 10p, 11p, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16p and so on, all the way up to 100p. And we all know that £1 is equal to 100 pence, 100 pennies. Okay, so it's well worth considering that and remembering that for these next questions, and it will really help you. And so before we start question 1, let's just have a little look in more detail at the value of one of these. Okay, so each of these squares is 1 out of the 100 altogether. So as a fraction, it's quite simply 1 per 100, 1/100th. That's as a fraction. As a decimal, we can say that it's 0.01, because don't forget, this column here is the tenths, this column here are the hundredths. So we can clearly see that each time we have a penny, 1 penny out of the 100, we put it into this column here. Okay, then next, finally, we've got our fraction and decimal so far. We're going to look at the percentage. So as a percentage, if we look here, it's 1 out of 100. Here we've got 1 out of 100. So 1 out of 100 is 1%, 1 per 100. It is as simple as that. I often say to children in the classroom, it's much easier than they think it's going to be, and a lot of children just overcomplicate it. So just keep it simple, use the grid as a map, as a guideline, and you'll be absolutely fine. So on to question 1, which is 76%. So we're going to start off with the percentages, find the equivalent fraction, and then calculate the equivalent decimal. So if we have a little look, we have 76%. So if we go back to what we said at the beginning, we know that each of these is worth 1%. So if we need 76%, we're going to need 76 of these squares. So there's my first 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 76. So we have 76%, so 76 of the squares, which brings us very nicely onto the fraction. It's 76 out of the 100 have been coloured in. It's exactly the same thing. And the decimal, it's like saying 76p, isn't it? So if we put a pound sign in front of there, in front of the decimal, we can clearly see how these are related to each other. So it's 0.7676 per 100. And next on to question 2, and this time we're going to start with a decimal. And we're going to find the equivalent fraction, and then finally the equivalent percentage. So if we take the 0.18, which we know that each of these squares is worth, as a decimal, it is worth 0.01, 1p. Okay, it's like saying 1p, a coin, small coin. Okay, we can count up 18 of these squares altogether, like so. So it's a smaller proportion this time. And if we take the 0.01 and we've got 18 of them, we can look at this and go, well, hold on, there's only 18 out of the 100 that have been coloured in. just like we have here, 18 per 100. And finally, if it's 18 per 100, we clearly know it's going to be 18 per 100, 18%. And for the final question, we have 32 out of 100 as a fraction, which we can change into a percentage and then into a decimal. So let's have a look. So we know that each of these squares is worth 1 per 100, 1 out of 100. And altogether, because we have 32 out of 100, we can count up 10, 20, 30, 32 out of the 100 altogether. And what we can do is change that to percentage. So that's 32 out of 100. It's the same thing, just written slightly differently and said slightly differently. 32 per 100. And as a decimal, we know it's 32 pence out of a £4. So it's 0.32. If I had to get rid of that, now you can see the clear decimal. Thank you very much for listening again today. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care, and don't forget to subscribe to the My Mini Maths YouTube video tutorial channel.